Hi there, I'm Ha, and this is just another video of me solving random code problem. So let's get started. Here we have a score after flipping the matrix. So we are given an n by n matrix. It is a binary matrix, so only 0 and 1. Okay, and every row of the matrix is interpreted as a binary number. The score of the matrix is the sum of this number. And we need to return the highest possible score, after making some change, right, to the matrix, right? And a zero move is also a valid. So originally, it is what we have, right? So if you are familiar with binary, right, it's gonna be 3, right? So 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, right? It's gonna be 3, right? The rightmost index will only be the least significant bit, which is the power of 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? So this is the power of 3, right? Plus the power of 2, plus the power of 1, plus the power of 0, right? And then the front is just gonna multiply, right? Right, I'm just gonna 0 multiply by that, right? It is 1, right? 1, so on and so forth. So it is 0, so this is 2, that is 2 to the 0 is 1, or 1 multiplied by 1 is 1, so 3. So this is how you represent number in binary, right? So our goal is to add all the numbers together, right? Plus the 0b 1010, right? And then 1100, 1100, 1100. So I'm just not gonna show the OB here. Just gonna a bit cleaner, right? We'll just add them all together, right? And then they want us to flip the matrix in such a way that we're gonna get the largest possible score. So for example, for the row, right, we can flip row if row, right, start with 0, right? Because doesn't matter what the least significant bit here, right? We only care about the most significant bit, right? Because if the most significant bit turn into a 1, we will always have a larger value, right? So for example, this is 7, right? But if we flip, right, it's gonna be an 8. So we always flip the row if the row, right, most significant bit, right, which is the row start with a 0. So in this case, a row start with a 0, right? So we're gonna flip it to 1100. So it is 3, but this is 12, right? Become 3 to 12, which is pretty good. Okay. What about the column? So we flip the column, right? If the number of 0 is more than the number of 1. Okay. So first of all, row. So we flip the first row, right? The second row and the third row doesn't start with a 0, so we keep it the same, right? So now we consider the column. Okay. So okay, so the thing is that if the number of 0, right, is more than the number of 1, if we flip it, right, then we're gonna have the number of 1 gonna be more than the number of 0, right? So if we have 2 0, right, if we have 2 0 and 1 1, right, we have, sorry, we have let's say 1 1 1 0 1, and then 1 1 0, right? So we're gonna have if we look at the last column here, right, we are having 2 0 and then number 1, right? So we can, if we flip that, we're gonna have 1 0 1, 1 0 1 1. So the last column will become 1 0 1, right? So instead of 2 0 now, we're gonna have 2 1, right? And the value will be larger. We're gonna have 5. It is 4, right? This is 7, right? We'll leave a 16, right? And but in this case, we only have 4, 5, and it is 6, right? Right, it's only give a 15. So if the number of 0 in the column is more than the of 0 is more than the 1, when we always flip the column, right? Okay, so let's walk through it. So in the first column here, we have all 1, right? So the 1 is smaller than 0, so we don't do anything. Same here, right? 2, 1, and 1, 0. But in this column, right, we have 2, 0, and then one number 1. So we flip it. It becomes 0, 1, 0, become 1, 0, 1, right? And then in the last column, we have 3, 0, so we flip it to become a 1, right? So we're gonna add 1 to each number here, okay? And yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward. This problem is more about how would we organize our code. And then of course, we will do it in place. So we're gonna have a constant space complexity, extra space complexity, right? And at the end, we will need to iterate over every row, right? And then join them. So for example, if we have 1, 1, 1, 1 here, right? Then we need to join them to become a string, right? 1, 1, 1, 1. And then we need to use a, if you're using JavaScript, for example, you need to use a parse_in function, right? To parse this from base 2, right? From base 2 to base 10, right? You need to do it for every row and then add them all together. Because we can only add in decimal, right? So we need to convert them to a string first, and then using a string, a binary string, to convert it into decimal and then add them all together, okay? So first thing first, let's create some constant for readability. So grid length. So columns equal to grid.0 dot length. So we flip row, right? Flip row star with a 0, okay? And then we flip column, right? If the number of 0 is more than the number of 1, right? So for row, let's row is equal to 0. Row less than row, and then row plus plus, okay? So if the row start with a 0, right? So the row here gonna be the row, right? And the column, we only care about the first column, right? Because we only care about if that row start with a column. So we only look at index 0. Okay, so if that is equal to 0, then we want to flip the row, right? So how do we flip? How do we flip the row? We're just gonna iterate over every single column, right? Okay, and then read at the row and the column will be equal to the read at row and the column, right? If it is a 0, set it to a 1, right? So if it is 1, right, gonna return true. We're gonna become a 0. And if it is a 0, we turn it into a 1. So we flip everything. So if we also log the grid now, we should have something like the second picture, right? As you can see, we have 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, and then 1, 1, 0, 0, with exactly like the second picture here after we flip the rows, right? Okay. And yes, that is it for the row. Now the columns, right? So we need to iterate over column. Okay. So we need to count the number of 1 and a 0, right? So how do we count? We iterate over each row, right? And then we count them. Okay. So read a row and a column. So if it is a 1, right, we increment the 1, otherwise it is a 0, right? Increment the 0. Because it is a binary matrix, so it's always be either 0 or 1, right? You're not gonna have anything else. Right. So just to be clear, the column here, right? This is a for loop, so the column gonna start at 0, right? This is always gonna be 0, right? And the row gonna change, right, from 0 to the row, right? So we're gonna go for example, the first row, right? The first column is the 0, right? So we're gonna look at the this column, right? They're gonna have the rows always be 0, right? I'm sorry, the column gonna be always be a 0. So you're gonna look at 0, 0, 1, 0, and 2, 0, right? It is the row, it is the column, right? The columns stay the same, but the row is changing. So it's allow us to look at the column, right? Like that. So we do this for every column, right? So when the column is 1, we just repeat the process, right? And just count them. And every time we try a new column, we set the 0 and 1 to 0. Okay. So we just count them, right? So after we count them, we check. So if the number of 0 is more than the number of 1, so we want to flip it, right? Okay. So how do we flip it? Just like before. So we set it, if it is a 0, we set it to a 1. Right, on a 1, set it to a 0. Okay. So let's look at the grid, right? After we flip the column. So we should have the last picture. Right. So 1, 1, wait, oops. It is not updating. Let's see. It is not what I expected. So let's check our logic here. If the number of 0 is more than the number of 1s, we flip it, right, by iterating over the row. And then, yep. Okay, if it is a 1, it's a 0. Okay. Localize. We have we still have the second picture here, right? Somehow it's not updating. So let's console log the grid here to see if we have any change. So it's always stay the same. Okay, so let console log the 1 and the 0 to see if we are counting. Just making sure. Okay, the 0 is never count, right? Because we never have a plus plus at the end here. So typo. Okay. Oh, now we have the last picture, right? 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, and then 1, 1, 1, 1, right? So now we already finished, right? The flipping in a way that we're gonna get a largest value. So now we need to map over every row, right? And then join them. So the join by an empty string. So we're gonna have something like this, right? Console log. Right, so we're gonna join them together. You have something like this, right? It's gonna become a string, and then we need to map them again, right? So that map, so we can do that reduce, right? The reduce, we can just return it directly. We want to return an integer, right? So we kind of have a sum, right? And for the row, and the sum will start out at 0. Okay, and so for each row, we want to add the sum, right? So you want first to change it, to convert it from a binary string into a decimal, right? So we pass in the binary string, and we pass in the base that we are converting from. So we are converting from base 2, right? So this gonna give us the decimal value in base 10, right? And we just sum them all together. Okay, that work. And thank you for watching.